If you don't control your mind, someone else will. Jack Cornfield. What if I told you that you could walk through betrayal, loss, even chaos, and still not be broken? That peace isn't the absence of noise, but the presence of understanding. Do you ever wonder why some people remain calm even when their world is on fire? What secret they've learned that lets them smile in silence when others scream in fear? The answer, dear seeker, lies not outside, but within. Welcome to Mindful Footsteps, where ancient Buddhist wisdom meets modern chaos, and where every word is an invitation to come home to yourself. Today, I will share with you 10 timeless Buddhist principles, not as theories, but as lived truths. These are not just ideas. They are inner technologies to help you become unshakable. So if you've been searching for clarity, calm, or simply a moment to breathe, then take a deep breath, like this video, and subscribe to join a growing community of quiet warriors walking the mindful path. And as you listen, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which principle resonates with your soul the most? Now, shall we begin? The art of non-reaction. A deeper revelation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been wounded by words that were never meant to stay, but somehow they did? A whisper behind your back, a cutting comment in front of others, and it haunts you, doesn't it? But what if I told you that insult, that offense, it was never about you? It was always about the storm within them. You see, when I first took the robe, I believed enlightenment would fall upon me like morning dew, gentle, natural, inevitable. But instead, I was met with fire. A man once stood before me, face red, voice sharp, and called me a fraud. He mocked my robes, my vows, my path. And for a brief moment, I felt it burn, a fire in my chest. But then, I heard the echo of my master's voice. When someone throws mud at the moon remains untouched. Let that settle in your heart for a moment. Because here's the truth. Insults only carry weight when we pick them up. Words are like arrows that fall at your feet, unless you decide to impale yourself with them. Think about it. Would Barack Obama in the White House stop his national address to respond to a tweet from a stranger? Would the Dalai Lama pause his meditation because someone online doubted his sincerity? Of course not. Because great minds are not distracted by small echoes, but I know it's not always easy, especially when the wound is fresh. Let me share something with you. One evening, a young novice came to me, eyes wet with shame. He had been mocked by another monk for chanting off-key. I didn't console him with empty words. Instead, I handed him a clear bowl of water and dropped ink into it. The water turned murky. "This," I told him, "is your mind right now." Then we waited. 5 minutes passed. The ink settled. The water cleared. "Do you see now?" I asked. Stillness always wins. Here's a simple practice for you to try. Right now, or next time someone throws shade your way. When insulted, take 3 deep breaths. Not 1, not 2, 3. Let silence answer for you. Let clarity walk ahead of emotion. Now, reflect with me. Have you let someone else's words define you? Have you carried insults like a badge of shame instead of letting them dissolve like mist? Drop your answers in the comments. And tell me, how would your life change if you truly believed that nothing outside you could disturb your peace? Your insight might help someone else today. Because here is the lesson. The one who insults is disturbed. The one who absorbs it becomes disturbed. But the one who sees clearly remains free. Be the moon, beloved friend. Let the mud fall. Let it dry. let it crack and blow away. You were never meant to react. You were meant to radiate. Everyone is a teacher, even the ones who hurt you. A sacred mirror. Pause for a moment and consider this. What if your greatest spiritual teacher isn't the wise monk, the eloquent master, or the holy text, but the person who frustrates you the most? Would you still resist them? Or would you finally bow? In the monastery where I first trained, my most profound teacher was not the revered abbot whose presence inspired awe. No, my real teacher was a monk who never smiled at me, never bowed, never said a kind word. He corrected me in front of others, dismissed me during meditation walks, and seemed always to see the worst in me. And for the longest time I resented him. But then something shifted. I began to observe instead of react. And what I saw was not cruelty, but reflection. Every irritation, every wound was simply showing me something within myself that was still unhealed. Ask yourself this: who is that person in your life right now? The one who pushes your buttons, tests your patience, makes you question your peace. Could they, in fact, be your greatest spiritual ally in disguise? In Buddhist practice, we bow not only to Buddhas, but also to suffering. Why? Because suffering wakes us up, it sharpens our attention, and yes, it humbles our ego. Let me share a story that may stir something in you. Real story: the mother and the doctors. In Thailand, a mother lost her only son during a medical operation. She was devastated, and the hospital staff, overwhelmed and distant, offered little comfort. She carried that pain for years, blaming them, blaming fate, blaming the world. But over time, as she sat with the grief in silence and prayer, something miraculous happened. Her sorrow transformed into insight. She realized that their coldness forced her to look within, to find a deeper strength she never knew existed. And years later, she returned, not to curse the doctors, but to thank them. Her pain had become her teacher. Can I ask you something personal? Who has hurt you? And what might they have been sent to teach you? Comment below, even anonymously, and share the wisdom you've uncovered through difficulty. Your story could be the very light someone else needs today. Practice for you. Before you sleep tonight, close your eyes and ask yourself, what did I learn today? And who was my teacher, even the difficult one? It could be your partner, your child, a stranger online, or perhaps your own inner voice of judgment. Because here is the sacred truth. When every person becomes your teacher, every situation becomes a lesson. And when you live like that, bitterness dies, compassion grows. This path isn't about escaping pain. It's about alchemizing it into wisdom. So the next time you meet someone who unsettles you, don't pull away. Lean in. Look deeper. You just might be staring at your next great teacher. Turn envy into inspiration. Reclaim the fire within. Tell me honestly, have you ever looked at someone and thought, why not me? Maybe it was someone effortlessly successful, deeply spiritual, or radiating peace while you were barely holding yourself together. Maybe you scrolled past them online or sat across from them in silence, and something inside you sank. Yes, my friend, that's envy. But let me show you something most people miss. Envy isn't a curse, it's a compass. You see, I once watched a fellow monk enter deep samadhi, a state of still, luminous meditation, while I struggled just to sit straight. He seemed afloat while I wrestled with restlessness. At first, I burned with jealousy, but then I looked deeper. That envy wasn't there to punish me. It was trying to point me somewhere. It whispered, "You want what he has. So stop judging and start learning." So I humbled myself. I asked him to teach me. And do you know what he said years later? "Your curiosity rekindled something in me I had lost. You reminded me how sacred the beginning truly is." Reflection for you. Who do you admire, maybe even envy us right now? What quality do they embody that speaks to a longing within you? Let's shift envy into inspiration. Next time that green-eyed feeling rises, try this. Write down what you admire in the other person, then ask, how can I begin cultivating that in myself today? Think about Oprah Winfrey. She once said, "What you focus on expands." She didn't become a global force by envying others. She studied them. She became inspired by them. And then she became herself. Because that's the ultimate truth. Envy corrodes when we deny it. It transforms us when we embrace it and use it as fuel to grow. So ask yourself right now and share with me in the comments. What quality in others lights a spark of longing in you? What is that spark calling you to become? Let that envy become your evolution. Hold yourself to high standards. Be gentle with others. The paradox of power and grace. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you judged someone? Silently, maybe even subconsciously, for not meeting your standard? And then, when was the last time you judged yourself with that same intensity? Most people walk through life with a magnifying glass aimed at others and a blindfold over their own hearts. But Buddhism, oh, it flips the lens. It teaches us to be fierce with ourselves and forgiving with others, not the other way around. You see, discipline is sacred. It is the spine of the spiritual path. But judgment? That is a poison disguised as precision. In my early days as a monk, I remember a young brother who constantly fell asleep during morning chants. Each time he nodded off, I felt irritation rise. Why can't he stay awake like the rest of us? I thought. Until one morning, I asked him, gently, and with tears in his eyes, he told me he spent his nights beside his dying mother's bed, massaging her feet so she could sleep. I was humbled, silenced, changed. Here's your reflection question, dear friend. How often do we judge the surface without ever seeing the depth beneath someone's story? Leave a comment below. Maybe confess a time you misjudged someone and what you learned when the truth came to light. Practice for the soul. Correct yourself 10 times before you correct another, even once. And when you do speak, let your words come not from your ego, but from your compassion. Even great leaders practice this. Do you think Nelson Mandela became a symbol of peace by punishing others for their ignorance? He spent 27 years in prison, emerged with dignity, and forgave. Discipline gave him strength. Compassion gave him power. Discipline without compassion becomes cruelty. Compassion without discipline becomes chaos. But together, they become wisdom in motion. So I ask you now, who in your life needs less correction and more understanding? And who needs you, yes, you, to lead by example, not by judgment? Let this be your practice this week. Hold yourself like a mountain. Hold others like the wind. No one can hurt you without your permission, the armor of inner sovereignty. Let me ask you something. Have you ever let someone else ruin your day just with a few careless words? A glance? A tone? A betrayal? And suddenly, the peace you spent all day building crumbles. But what if I told you, no one, not even the person who wounded you the most, can steal your peace unless you offer it to them. That's not just philosophy, that's spiritual law. In the monastery, I once denied a merchant's donation. He wanted recognition in return, a name on the wall, a favor from the abbot. When I refused, he exploded. Anger poured out of him like wildfire, but I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I simply bowed. Days later, he returned, tears in his eyes. "Your calmness," he said. "It showed me my chaos." You see, sometimes the greatest teaching you can offer another is your peace, the strength of acceptance. Let what is be. Let me ask you this. How often do we suffer, not because of what happened, but because we refused to let it happen? Because we said, "This shouldn't be." Because we clenched our fists at life instead of opening our hands to it? My father passed away suddenly. I was already a monk. I had shaved my head. I had sat in stillness. I had memorized sutras. But grief doesn't care about robes. Grief finds its way in, even through the thickest silence. For months, I resisted. I told myself monks shouldn't cry. But one morning, as I meditated beneath a mango tree, a bird began to sing. Its song pierced the armor I had built around my sorrow. And I wept, not out of pain, but out of release. You see, acceptance is not giving up. It's waking up. It's saying to life, "I won't fight you anymore. I'll meet you exactly as you are." Have you been resisting something in your life lately? A loss? A change? A truth too heavy to carry? What would happen if, just for today, you whispered, "This too, I will allow to be"? Here's a soul practice for you. Each morning, place your hand over your heart and speak, "Whatever this day brings, I welcome it with open arms." You'll be surprised how soft the day becomes when you stop fighting its shape. Even great leaders understand this. Think of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. Did he resist the bars, or did he transform them into a university of the soul? He accepted the moment, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Let's talk in the comments. What have you been resisting that you're now ready to accept? What burden feels lighter when you simply say, "I no longer need to control this"? Because here's the great paradox of the path. Resistance is suffering, but acceptance? Acceptance is liberation. Breathe that in. Let it settle. You're not losing control. You're reclaiming your peace. Here's a mantra I whisper in silence, and I give it to you now. No one can steal my peace unless I hand it to them. Write that down. Speak it aloud. Let it become your shield. Think of the greats, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, Thich Nhat Hanh. Did they live lives free from attack? From hatred? Number. But they walked through chaos with the stillness of a mountain, because they knew. What others do is their karma. How we respond is ours. Reflection for you who has been testing your peace lately. What would happen if, just once, you chose to not react, but to breathe, observe, and let it pass? Share your answer in the comments. There is someone else reading who needs to know they're not alone in this struggle. Your practice this week. Each time you feel provoked, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I choose peace. I choose response over reaction. I choose freedom." Because here's the truth. The tree that bends does not break, and the soul that knows its worth cannot be shaken. So stand tall, bow low, and remember, your peace is your power. Live with the rhythm of nature, the sacred pace of simplicity. Pause for a moment and listen, not to me, but to the sound of the wind, the rustle of leaves, the silence between your breaths. Have you noticed how nature never rushes, and yet everything gets done? The sun rises without an alarm clock. The tree sheds its leaves without resistance. The river flows, even when no one is watching. So let me ask you, why do we as human beings fight the very rhythm we were born into? In the monastery, we wake with the sun. We eat in silence. We walk barefoot on the earth, not because it's tradition, but because it reconnects us with something the world forgets: the natural flow of life. Focus on ethical living. Let your life become the teaching. Let me ask you gently, what if your every action was a prayer, not spoken with folded hands, but expressed through your words, your choices, your integrity, especially when no one is watching? In Buddhism, we don't simply meditate on a cushion and call that practice. The true meditation begins the moment we stand up. You see, ethics is not about rules carved in stone. It is about harmony between our inner world and the world around us. It's about realizing that every thought, every gesture, every choice sends out ripples like stones dropped into still water. One day, a novice asked me, "Master, how do I know if I'm truly progressing?" And I answered, "Check the wake you leave behind. Are people calmer after speaking with you? Are you truthful when it's hard? Kind when it's inconvenient?" Because here's the truth. Enlightenment is not built on brilliance. It's built on honesty, on compassion, on consistency. Let's pause and reflect. Are your values visible in your actions? Is your kindness loud enough to be remembered? Look to someone like the Dalai Lama, respected across nations not for his intellect alone, but because of the purity of his ethical presence. He smiles with sincerity, speaks with simplicity, and lives his message. Your practice: speak truthfully, walk gently, treat every being as sacred, especially the ones society overlooks. Here's something powerful you can do today. Write down 3 ethical principles that matter most to you. Then ask, am I truly living them? Not perfectly, but authentically. Let's have an honest moment in the comments. What value do you hold dearest? And where in your life is it most tested? Because here is the spiritual law. A clean conscience is softer than silk and stronger than stone. The one who walks ethically may not always be praised, but will always sleep in peace. Let your life become the Dharma. Let your choices become your legacy. Live so fully in your truth that others feel safe to find theirs. One day, a businessman, successful, sharp, always in a hurry, came to our temple. He said, "I have everything but peace." So I handed him a broom. "Go sweep the leaves under the Bodhi tree," I said. For 7 days he swept in silence, and on the 8th day, he came back. Different, his posture softer, his eyes slower, his breath deeper. "What happened?" I asked. He smiled and said, "For the first time, I move with life, not against it. Try this. Watch a sunset without your phone. Eat one meal in total silence. Take off your shoes. Walk on grass. Feel the earth again." Now I want to hear from you. When was the last time you felt truly connected to nature? Not through a screen, but through your senses. Drop your memory in the comments below, or even your longing to return to that state. Because here is the truth. Nature isn't just outside you. Nature is within you. And when the inner world and outer world beat to the same rhythm, stress fades, clarity blooms. So walk slower, breathe deeper, live simpler. Let the world teach you how to be. Practice gratitude. The alchemy of seeing. What you have let me ask you something that could change your life. Are you truly aware of what's already good? Or are you waiting for something more before you begin to feel peace? We often chase happiness like it's a prize in the future, but in truth, it's already around us right now, disguised as the ordinary. A bowl of warm rice, a roof that doesn't leak, a breath you didn't have to fight for, a stranger who smiled at you when you needed it most. You see, gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a practice, a path, a perception. And yet, so many people say, I have nothing to be grateful for. But I ask them, are you alive? Because if you are, life has not given up on you. Why have you given up on it? One morning, I met a woman who had lost everything in a flood. Her home, her family heirlooms, even the altar she prayed at. But she said to me, when the sun rose the next day, I realized it still rises for me. That is the strength of gratitude. It doesn't erase pain. It reveals light through it. Here's a simple daily practice. Each evening before bed, write down just 3 things that went right. No matter how small. The cup of tea you enjoyed. The sound of your child laughing. The fact that even in sorrow, your heart still beats. Tell me in the comments right now, what is one small thing you're grateful for today? Sometimes, the tiniest share can open someone else's eyes too. Think about world changers like Maya Angelou, who once said, let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer. Even through poverty and pain, she remained rooted in thanks, and her spirit became unshakable. Because here's what most people miss. Gratitude is not about being blind to what's wrong. It's about choosing to see what's right, even when things go wrong. So I offer you this mantra today. Everything I have in this moment is already enough. Repeat it, write it, believe it, and you will watch your inner world transform. Not by gaining more, but by finally noticing what was always there. Trust the process and let go of control. Surrender is power. Let me begin with a question that may challenge everything you've believed. What if your need to control is exactly what's keeping you from peace? Not the chaos, not the people, not the circumstances, but the illusion that you must grip life tightly, or it will all fall apart? I once believed that too. I thought the more I controlled, the safer I would feel. But the truth? The tighter I held on, the more I suffered. It was in the letting go that I finally touched peace. Imagine this. You are in a river. You can fight the current, burn your muscles, and exhaust your soul. Or you can learn to float. Let the river take you. Trust that its flow knows more than your fear does. In Buddhism, we are taught that attachment is the root of all suffering, not because it's bad to love or to dream, but because when we cling, we suffer the pain of impermanence. I've seen people fall apart over a job they didn't get, a relationship that ended, a plan that unraveled. But I've also seen those same people rise higher, live freer, and smile deeper. Once they learn to say the 5 most powerful words, this is not mine to control. Here's a soul question for you. Where in your life are you holding on too tightly right now? And what would it feel like to open your grip just a little? A story. A woman came to me, shattered after losing her business. She wept and asked, "Why did this happen?" I said, "Maybe this chapter ended, so your real story could begin." A year later, she was leading wellness retreats across Asia. What she thought was a breakdown was a redirection. Practice for you. Each time you feel fear or tension rise, place your hand on your chest and repeat this mantra. I do not need to control the outcome. I only need to walk in presence. And now, I invite you to share, in the comments, or even privately with yourself. What are you ready to release today? What burden have you been carrying that was never yours to hold forever? Because here's the hidden truth. Letting go is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It means you trust that the universe, or God, or Dharma, or the great flow knows the way. So breathe, dear one. Your life is not falling apart. It is unfolding.